come on. Right now. Okay, we're live now. Yeah, so I need to mute us because they can hear us, okay? But let's communicate on LinkedIn. So Eric, I unmuted us for a second. So we're live. You can go to the page and share. Plus, I'm doing this as a test to see if I show up in the live feed. Hi, everyone. Turn the music down. Oh, am I out of focus? Where am I? I gotta be right here. The table is too far away. Oh my gosh. I used to say that when I was a kid, eating food, the supper table. Table's too far away. My mother said, oh, you just don't like the food. Welcome. I'm Dave England. This is Wine with Dave. Hey, look, it is wine o'clock, and it's going to be wine o'clock for the next hour. Tonight is Intelligence Night. I'm going to call it that because that's what it is. I got someone who's very smart and who's, let's just say he's vibrating on another plane. He's very, very forward thinking, so I'm really glad that he's on the show. And I will describe him later. But I could talk about him now. I could do that. Eric James Stevens is on the show tonight. Hey, if this is your first time on, just type in where you're from. The comments show up just like that. I can move it around, put it on my head. I'm always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Who did that? Who was that? The red-headed stranger, the country guy. Who was that? You were always on my mind. Why am I drawing a blank? Willie Nelson. You were always on my mind. Anyway, yeah, I'll give you a shout out. We'll talk. We'll discuss. This is pretty much an open live show. You can ask away, ask any question you want. It's just fun. I have crazy facts to start with. That's the next segment. And then there's some really important things happened today, the anniversary of today, which is October 5th. So go ahead and give a hi, give a shout out. Like Josh Hicks. How are you, Josh, from Idaho? Idaho's always on my mind. You like how I can move you around? That's awesome. Thank you for coming on and watching. Hey, Josh, if you haven't followed me, go ahead and follow. Because a like is just a like, but a follow is a lot of love. That's kind of how I see it. And also click on the like button. That's also good. It's like dropping a nickel in the hat in these trying times as I go live streaming with a cup and a pencil. Do help, kind sir. So I've been doing this since April 1st, having a lot of fun, of course. And I try to make the most of it. And I try to encourage and build up and promote businesses, authors, creatives, thought leaders, even musicians. Had a musician from North Carolina, had one from England. I had a bass player from Greece. It was like 4 a.m. in the morning. I had a woman who rescues animals in India, Jaipur, India. It was like 6 a.m. in the morning. So she's just getting up now, in fact. I just got off the phone with her. Anyway, let's start with the next segment because people like this. And Josh, you might like this. I've got a few odd facts that if you know the answer, you might win a prize. All right, here we go. This is called Did You Know? Boy, I feel like I'm too close. I'm like right on top of everybody. All right. Did you know that flamingos bend their legs at the ankle, not the knee? It just looks like their knee. It's not their knee, it's their ankle. Roller coasters were invented to distract Americans from sinning. You didn't know that. In the 1880s, hosiery businessman Lamarcus Thompson hated that Americans were tempted by hedonistic places like saloons and brothels. Yeah, I raise a beer to that. So what did he do? He set out to straighten up one of the most immoral places he could think of, Coney Island in New York. And he built a roller coaster specifically to take our eyes off the other stuff, like drinking beer and all that. I did not know that. See, I learned things. The roller coaster was the answer to a age-old problem. And you know what? It didn't help. It did not help. Well, for a moment, for a brief moment, when your heart drops out of your body, when you go down that fast incline. Ice pops were invented by an 11-year-old by accident. That's right, in 1905, an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson. Young Frank Epperson left soda water soda powder and water outside overnight in its wooden stirrer. We're getting back to wooden. It started with wooden. He left it in his wooden stirrer still in the cup. The mixture had frozen in the chilly nighttime weather. And so the Epsicle, Frank Epperson called it the Epsicle, was born. It was icicle, Epsicle. Like if I invented it, David England would have invented the Ingsicle. But it was the Epsicle. He sold the treat around his neighborhood in a nearby amusement park and even patented the recipe. Smart kid. Years later, he changed the name to Popsicle because that's what his kids called their Pop's concoction. That's cool. See, in 1905, we have some entrepreneurs. Did you know the Statue of Liberty used to be a lighthouse? I bet you didn't know that. About a month after the statue's 1886 dedication, it became a working lighthouse for 16 years with its torch visible from 24 miles away. And then they put out the light. They put out the light. Did you know supermarket apples can be up to a year old? I don't want to read the story behind it. Google it. By the time they process it, spray it, water it, disinfect it, wax it, box it, ship it, stamp it, do whatever they have to do, by the time it gets to the place and sits around for a month, it could be a year old. You could be eating old food. But it's still good, trust me. It's okay. It's all right. It's just going to go away miraculously like this. It's just going to go away. A subtle joke in there. It's impossible to hum while holding your nose for more than 2 seconds. Octopuses have 3 hearts. Did you know people used to say prunes instead of cheese when having their picture taken? In 1840s, a big deer, we say cheesy grin, was seen as too childish. So one London photographer told people to say prunes to keep their mouths taut. Prunes, which was the selfie or the duck face. Seriously, they were doing the duck face back in 1840. It was prunes, not cheese. All right, here's the guess. What country serves McDonald's spaghetti? McDonald's serves spaghetti, but what country? Come on, Joshua Hicks, you can guess this one. Dunce caps used to be a sign of intelligence. Three Musketeer bars got their name because they used to come with 3 flavors. It was vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. But because of World War II, rations made it hard, so they just made it 1 flavor and then made it 1 bar, and they stuck with that. Here's the next one, Josh. You can guess. Before toilet paper was invented, Americans used to use what? The Empire State Building has its own zip code. And lastly, Michelangelo wrote a poem about how much he hated painting the Sistine Chapel. And that ends, did you know? That ends, did you know? And actually, you want the poem? I'll tell you the poem. Michelangelo wrote the poem because he hated the Sistine Chapel. Here's the poem. I've already grown a goiter. Let me start. I've already grown a goiter from this torture, hunched up here like a cat in the Lombardy or anywhere else where the stagnant water's poison. He wrote that. He hated it. He hated doing it. But sometimes beautiful things come out of things you hate. So I sometimes differ from that, but it could be true. All right, ready? If you are here, we only have 1 person voting. That's weird. If you're on, type in where you're from. Come on, type in. Going to give away some prizes. And I got 2 questions. McDonald's serves spaghetti, but in what country? Is that McGetty? Is that what they call it? McGetty? Or a Big McGetty? I don't know what they call it. What country serves that? And before toilet paper was invented, Americans used to use what? You're going to be blown away when you hear that. Anybody? Any guesses? Any guesses? Sammy Walker Herrera from Florida. Hi, Sammy. You want to guess on this? I'll give everybody like 20 seconds. McDonald's does serve spaghetti in one country. What country is it? It's not what you think. There's a hint. And before toilet paper was invented, Americans used to use what? Come on, anybody? Do I have any? I have no guesses tonight. I have really good prizes too, so I'm going to give it away. The Philippines. If you're in the Philippines and you go to McDonald's, you can get spaghetti. Before toilet paper was invented, Americans used to use corn cobs. Yeah. Oh, Sammy almost... Very close. India. Very close. Philippines. Very close. Now everyone's guessing. Germany. No. Oh, that's funny. That's funny right there. German spaghetti at McDonald's. There's a country song. Hey, listen, but you all got it wrong, so you missed out on the wonderful prizes. You'll have to tune in for my next show. It is 9/10. It's episode 76. It's 9/11, October 5th. Do you know what today is? Does anybody know what today is? You saw it on the screen by accident if you were looking closely. No, it wasn't that. It was that. That's right. National Rhode Island Day. That's a joke. That's a Rhode Island joke. I'll blow it up. I'm from Little Rhodey, and I'm doing this show from Rhode Island. It's not New York. I just had a guy talk to me the other day, and he said, so you're in Rhode Island? Is that part of New York? He actually said that. I said, yeah, it's part of New York. Because I like to educate. National Rhode Island Day, wrapping up the original 13 colonies, and we were stubborn. Rhode Islanders are stubborn. We were the last. We held out for the longest time. I think his last name was Stone. Thomas A. Stone. No, Stone was his last name. He might have been the governor. He's last assigned. October 5th recognizes the last colony to join the Union, the most stubborn of all states. Persecuted for his beliefs in Massachusetts, Roger Williams established the Rhode Island colony in 1636 at Providence, seeking religious and political freedom. While the colony was the first to renounce British rule, Rhode Island was the only state absent from the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787. So Rhode Island delayed signing the Constitution, preferred the addition of a Bill of Rights. It's good to hold out, huh? It wasn't until the Constitution was ratified by 9 previous states and the threat of taxation on her exports that Rhode Island finally ratified the document and became the 13th state. 13 is not really an unlucky number. So today is Rhode Island Day, and I toast Rhode Island. Oh, oddly enough, isn't this weird? I did not plan this, but I'm drinking oh, it's covered by Rhode Island. Go figure, Rhode Island covers a can of beer. It's so small. I'm drinking... See that? Poor Judgment. And it's from Rhode Island. That's cool. That's awesome. But it's poor judgment. Like as in poor judgment. Yeah. It's all words. What else happened today? This is cool. Beatles fans out there. Today, 1962, 58 years ago today, they released their first record, Love Me Do. Amazing. With the great John Lennon on harmonica. That's all I'm going to say about that because I want to get into the guest. But that's cool. I think that's cool. Also, something else happened today. 1947. Tonight, Harry Truman marks the first president to make the first presidential address televised from the White House. Imagine that. 1947, first TV. I'd like to review that and see, how he was, how he acted, how cool it was. Was he nervous? Did he sweat? Did he cut to a break? And now my sponsor, Downy Soap. That would have been great if they had a sponsor. What I love about live streaming is you don't hear any laughter. I'm sure people are laughing out there, but you don't hear any. It's just like silence. The silence is actually funny. I'm saying a joke I think is clever. I didn't write it. I just said it. And you hear like nothing. That could be very funny. All right, who else is here? He's answering the other question. So Josh Hicks, welcome to the show. Sammy, welcome to the show. I know we got a bunch of people watching. I'm going to get into this next thing. I've got, hold on a second. So here's the deal. I've got one more episode, then I'm going to go into season 3, which is going to be just Wednesday nights from here on out to the end of the year. Although I think one Wednesday it's going to be the VP debate, so I might not be on that Wednesday, but it's going to be just one night a week, not 5 nights. And then January we start up season 4. I can't believe I'm even talking about season 4. But this Friday is really, really cool because I've got a guest on, Chris Costello. He's a photographer, graphic designer. He created the infamous font Papyrus. SNL did a skit on that, on the Papyrus font. That what's that movie? James Cameron movie, Avatar. They used it. So if you've seen that, I know him. He's going to be on the show and talking about that. He actually thinks it's funny that people made a big deal about it, and he'll tell the history of why he created that font. And what a creation tool, huh? To create a font that's been loaded into every single freaking computer sold in the world. I don't think just America. So he's going to be on Friday, Chris Costello. But tonight you're in for a treat. It's 9:16. I'm right on time. Eric James Stevens is in the house, PhD. Let me add that. The founder of #HigherEd, #ChangeHigherEd, and Thousand Plateaus Consulting LLC. His organization's goals are to highlight the value of higher ed workers as they migrate to industry, government, and nonprofit jobs outside of academia. During this foundational shift in the landscape of higher education exposed by the COVID pandemic, Eric sees opportunity for change. But first, you got to see this video. This is probably how it started.
I used to not be who I am today. I like who I am today, but I want tomorrow me to be better. That's what I want other people to do too. For me, this is what this means for me, is putting on an event and helping other people find a job and do what they can. Whatever it is for you, just do it, and just make sure that it does happen. Because I don't know. Otherwise, why are we here? And in the most existential way, why are we here?
Eric, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Dave? It's pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. You like the odd tips? Anything strike you funny about that? Did you guess any right? Or
No, I'm totally thinking about Italy, but then you said that was the wrong answer.
Yeah.
And then I didn't get the other one either.
Wouldn't you think that would be it? Like Italy, Italian spaghetti. But actually, I think the Chinese invented spaghetti too. So I don't know. So maybe that's where the Philippines kind of. I don't know. I heard they invented spaghetti. Who knows? Thanks for coming on. This is really good. We connected on LinkedIn. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I have my scotch. I'm drinking Johnny Walker Black, and it's delicious. And
nice.
I'm excited to have a fun conversation.
So what I do is put your Johnny Walker in your right hand. I do a virtual clink, and sometimes I forget, but I'm remembering now, so I don't forget. So hold it there, and you want to move it to over your left shoulder.
Okay.
Which is where the cut it. Well, actually, you can see the screen.
Yeah, I can totally see it.
Oh my gosh, we never used to do that before. I just realized that. So ready?
Right there? Yeah, okay.
Yep, so ready? Keep it over there. Right.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1. Oh man, that was like the best clink.
That was pretty great.
We went a bit too far. I think we blended whiskey and poor judgment. We made poor whiskey. You have a PhD in rhetoric. What does that mean? And why did you go after that? What kind of kid was Eric James Stevens?
That's a great question to start with.
Yeah, yeah, that's a better
Let's see,
one.
when I was in fourth grade, I used to my brothers and I like we would soak toothpicks in cinnamon oil, and then we would sell them on the playground for a dime a piece. And then the school administrators were doing their job and not wanting children to be running around with toothpicks in their mouths, and they
Yeah.
so they made an announcement to ban toothpicks. Um, and so all that happened was everybody wanted these toothpicks, these cinnamon toothpicks. And so what I did is I'd break them in half and I
Mm-hmm.
sell each one for a quarter because the demand was up and people knew what it was. And that's kind of what rhetoric is is using. Aristotle said rhetoric is using everything that's around you that's available to be persuasive. And I kind of just had that knack when I was a kid, like selling like lemonade stands and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of naturally progressed to a point where I was studying English as a major in my undergraduate school, and then I graduated, got to my master's program, and I sat there with my course list in front of me, and on one side, um, I mean, I was taking this Shakespeare class, and I'd read Shakespeare before and a million times over, and I didn't really want to read him again. And then I looked at my wife's reading list because she was in the same program, and there was books on there called like Schizophrenia and Capitalism, Cyber Marxism, and just like really interesting, engaging titles. And that's when I discovered rhetoric as a field. What I loved about English and studying English is making sense of things using theory.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about rhetoric is making sense of things using theory, but it's making sense of everything that's around you. Because what rhetoric is at its core is communication. It's talking to somebody to kind of get what you want for whatever reason, like whether that's for you to earn money or to donate money or whatever it is. It's there to help you be persuasive and to communicate. And
Right.
I'm of the feeling that without rhetoric, nothing else can exist. And that's how fundamental it is, and the importance of understanding it and the way that people communicate, so that you can do it well, and so that you know that you're like not being duped about anything.
Mm-hmm. So deliberative rhetoric is like talking about the future. So how do you feel the candidates are doing with that? Do
Um,
you find that interesting? All the promises made? That
yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about rhetoric, right? Is that it's the instant go to is let's talk politics, and I'm totally like down because I mean it's so much fun to talk about. Um, but it's like even in the news right now, I saw like the rhetoric is flaring up. Um, like that itself is a rhetorical act. To say that rhetoric is flaring up
yeah.
is a flaring up of rhetoric in and of itself.
Yes,
And so
exactly. That's a good point. Good quote.
yeah, and people think that it doesn't have and people think that like, oh, there's not rhetoric in this or there's not rhetoric involved in that. That just means that rhetoric is hiding very, very well. And it means that you're being persuaded when you don't realize you're actually being persuaded to do something.
So
Um,
rhetoric in and of itself is not a bad way to communicate, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, rhetoric in and of itself is a tool. And there's a great Roman philosopher Cicero who asked the question like, do you have to be a good person to be a good rhetorician? And the idea is that rhetoric is a tool. Um, Everybody uses it. You cannot communicate without it. And so it's
Yeah,
not
like it doesn't
necessarily.
have a conscience, right, or a soul. It's just the tool.
It's
Yeah.
just a tool. It's a hammer, and you can use it well or you can use it not well. And as far as like how are the presidential debates and things like that going, I think it's fascinating to watch from a rhetorical perspective. Not really trying to under like not to go in and be persuaded to do something, but to go in and pay attention to what they're saying and how they're saying it, and what are some of the things that they are saying versus not saying.
Mm-hmm. So this kind of rhetoric is based on facts, or probably facts about the constituents, like, oh, I think they want this, so let me speak about this because they're going to like that and vote for me. So that's a little deceitful, right? I mean, I think that's deceitful, unless you can
Yeah, I
deliver on
think
that promise.
exactly, and that's the key. Like it becomes about delivering on the promise. But as far as like is is rhetoric being used to deceive people? I think it's the same way. Like the word persuasion and the word manipulate are the same word. One has a
Hmm.
positive feeling to it, and one has a negative feeling to it.
Yeah.
Which one you use in a sentence is a rhetorical decision. So if you're using language that is intended to incite violence or to attack someone's character rather than their argument, then
Mm-hmm.
that's flawed logic. You don't want to use that. You want to appeal to, um, like you said, the facts. But then the facts can be debated, and you can't do that without rhetoric. And so a lot of people think that, oh, you're using rhetoric, that means that you're trying to manipulate me. You you cannot explain that concept to me without you using rhetoric as well.
I follow you. That's interesting. Well, let's get into the changes in your life. How did you go from academia to doing what you're doing now, which is higher ed?
Yeah, if you noticed, like that clip, I'm gonna be real good about myself. Um, but I wanted to. So here's what happened. My wife and I, we were both in the we were both teaching in a university, and then we got laid off,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to move across the country. Um, hmm. Let me see. How are we doing on the video connection? I feel like, am I getting choppy
A little bit, but that's normal.
a little bit? Okay,
Yeah,
we're good.
just go
Okay,
through
that's
it.
normal.
If you
Okay,
freeze
we'll
up,
just
I'll
make
have you
sure.
repeat the last couple seconds.
Okay, all right. I'm nervous going live on this end of on this end of the questions.
No,
So
well,
yeah,
first of all, we won't lose you. That's very rare, but there might be a little hiccup, so you're good.
okay, cool. Yeah, so my wife and I, we were both laid off from our university jobs. Um, we I knew in advance that I was going to be laid off, and then I kind of sat in that darkness for a long time, not really knowing what to do or how to cope with what was happening to higher education in and of itself. What I really wanted to do was to find support and to find people that could relate to what I was experiencing. Um, and I wasn't finding it in the community that I had hoped to find it, my academic community. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of things that were going on during that time. There were a lot of things that, I mean, just it was hitting the fan everywhere. And so um, it made sense that people didn't know how to respond to me. They didn't really know what to do with this information that I'd given them. They're like, oh, hey, I'm laid off. Like, can I, what do you recommend? Can you connect with me on LinkedIn or whatever? And so I sought out to connect with people and to invite them to participate in this event, basically to connect people on a social media platform that is designed to take the data that we input and to help people find jobs. Facebook doesn't do that. LinkedIn doesn't do that. Or Twitter doesn't do that. LinkedIn does. It's designed to help people find jobs. And
Mm-hmm.
so, why not go to that platform and connect with people in a time when people need jobs? I wrote a little article that said, and I still believe this wholeheartedly, no matter what industry you are in, that if you are actively employed, if you're securely employed right now, the most ethical thing that you can do is to connect with people on LinkedIn, is to go and give them an endorsement. Because the whole idea is that you're going to get a job through networking. You might know someone that I need to know to get a job. We won't know that until we have your data in the algorithm and it can show me that, hey, you're 2 steps away from this job at Google or Apple or wherever industry anybody likes to go into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's important data, and it is an act of kindness, and it is a yeah, an act of kindness and compassion to take 10 minutes from your week to connect with the people in your network on LinkedIn and to help promote them. Because honestly, I mean, given this economy, you don't know when you're going to need that yourself. You might need it sooner. And so, anyway, all of this was happening. Nobody was kind of really connecting. It wasn't really getting off the ground. And then, as I was in the middle of planning everything, there terrible news swept across the country. Black Lives Matter erupted, and I realized like, okay, I need to take a step back, understand what's going on, be able to internalize these different things. At the same time, my wife had just had a baby. We had a home birth, so we had a little 4-week old baby, and we decided to pack up all of our things in Washington State, which is where everything is, and we moved to Maryland, to my parents'
Wow.
house. Um, and so there was all these things that are happening. This is where I am right now. This is actually my childhood bedroom that my parents turned into a storage unit that I've turned into my makeshift office, to kind of do these different things. Um,
Jeez.
and and so I kind of put my head down and I was like, all right, like let me start connecting with people. I figured that if a savvy career coach is going to do their thing, they're going to see what I'm doing, understand the potential of this hiring pool of this all these people coming from academia, and they're going to do a webinar and going to say, hey, let me be your career coach, or here, like sign up for my upskilling course. And so rather than having to deal with that frustration, that headache, and honestly, I was being a little bit arrogant that there are people that would want to do that. I set aside and I was like, okay, I'm going to invite people to do this. So I started reaching out to career coaches and life coaches and financial coaches. And I just gave them my spiel. And I said, I'm working on this thing. I'm an out of work academic myself. I'm not the only one. Other people are facing this void and this deep darkness. Let's add some brightness into their life. Let's let people know that they're not alone. And so I got enough people. I got up to, I think 30 people had committed at one point, but then like schedules and fluctuations and things. So I got established. We had 19 workshops that were all dedicated to academics and teachers exiting industry or exiting academia and higher ed to find industry jobs. And I got enough of that momentum going that I was able to start some thought leadership panels as well. And this
Mm.
idea that there are things that are changing in higher education and things that we need to address, and we need to be able to talk about them in a frank way that's honestly outside of the walls of academia itself. Because I think that we're at the point where that's where the change has to come from, is externally, because clearly internally it hasn't happened. um, and so we invited a whole bunch of people, and we got a total of 50 speakers involved. We had 9 live stream panels over 2 days, and we had 280 people that signed up, and it was great. It was
Wow.
phenomenal, and all of it to that point was to help me find a job. Um, but then after it was over, I realized like this is the thing that I got to do. I can't do anything else. And that's what that clip was talking about before. I decided that was my AMA and Ask Me Anything, kind of like a pre-conference um, get together kind of thing.
That
And
was really
so,
humble of you, just to like warts and all, like here I am. That was great. That was very riveting.
yeah, and I think that's the reason that I've been kind of propelled into the position that I am right now is because not only because of my story, um, but I mean, but the way that I'm open about my story, that I think that there are a lot of people that if they're not seeing themselves or they're not themselves in their parents' basement again, they're looking around at higher education, seeing a 58% reduction of jobs this time last year, right? Where they're seeing um, there's 900 graduates with a PhD in history, and there are only 9 jobs available that require a PhD in history. People are looking at things and saying, shit, like, is that going to be me? Am I going to be there? And
Right.
I'm here and I'm there now, and it's hard, but people need to know that they're not alone, and that there's a community around that can be there and support them.
Mm-hmm. What about those graduating high school, or have you had conversations with the young ones in the community where they're like, "Oh, I want to go here, get this degree, that degree"? Do you have a
I haven't
mentor?
had any explicit conversations with like graduating seniors from high school. Most of the I've talked to a lot of graduating seniors from college, because they're kind of facing this idea of I I was attaching myself to the value of my institution, like where I came from mattered, but now just it doesn't anymore because the applicant pool is so large. When I'm thinking about high school students, my first my gut reaction is I'm sorry that you're in the situation right now. Like out of all of the groups that I can think of demographically that I feel like just so bad for, it was last year's high school seniors. I think that's like one of the first big moments in your life
Mm-hmm.
of transition that you um, and to those who are thinking about what should I be doing right now with school, honestly, I would say wait. I would say take that gap year, take some classes at your community college, but right now, unless these universities can come up with a legitimate plan that doesn't involve teachers or asking teachers to update their wills, um, I mean, don't go to school.
That's good advice. Get some life under your belt. Learn to work on yourself rather than going after something, go having a target to go after, because that's the first age group of a dark era because who knows how long this thing is going to last, COVID, and then they're the first graduates and they're from high school and they're trying to go to college. So, wow. So you're happy where you are right now in this place in life. Do you feel anybody you've talked to bitter or resentment with academia right now?
Um, I think that there's a lot of frustration with academia right now. And I think for the first time in a while, if or at least that I can think of, that that frustration has just kind of been bursting at the seams with COVID. There's been a lot like higher education, people who are in higher education do not understand that it is a crumbling industry. People outside of education look at it as an industry and they say, there's been a lot of problems with higher ed. Like I'm surprised that it hasn't collapsed yet or so far. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's bound to happen. And what COVID has done is just expedited all of that. It's just exposed all of those questions that honestly students should be asking,
Big
that
time.
parents should be asking. Why am I spending 50 grand a year on tuition?
Yep.
I mean, before you could make somewhat of an argument. You could make the argument of the school experience. It's the first year experience of being on school and going to sports games and all those different things. But now, whether you went to Harvard or whether you went to Carroll Community College, which is up the road where I started, your debt is your debt. that there is no difference between community college debt and Harvard debt. Now, I'm hoping that we're going to see like kind of like the organization of students to say, hey, universities, we deserve better, we deserve more, and I think that that has to happen internally from the student perspective.
Oh, so you think it might happen from within?
I think that if it happens within, it's going to happen because of students.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there
True.
is incentive enough for um, boards of trustees and university presidents to take the hits that they should take. I mean, there are university presidents that are making close to $1 million a year. You don't need to be paid that much, like in this moment. And so, I don't think that they're going to give those things up.
Wow.
I think they're going to like try to cling to a hopeful future while they just kind of watch students get sick and then blame students for them getting sick.
Yeah.
I think that's wrong
Yeah. Right. Right.
to do. Yeah.
That's crazy. Another question: why should anyone hire an academic?
I'm gonna take a drink.
I'll drink to that.
So why should anybody hire an academic? So here's my spiel. So right now, and like this is for anybody who's looking to hire someone, there are so many places. How do I want to say this? It's been right now in this moment in our economy, there is a huge labor pool that is hitting the market. Let's see, it was Amherst in early September furloughed permanently 850 employees. Rutgers University just notified all of their adjunct teaching or writing faculty that they're laying them off in the spring. There are so many universities that are already cutting jobs. It's not even December yet. So we're going to see a huge round of layoffs in December, or probably we'll probably see them January, like the first week of January, and then we're going to see a lot more in June. Enrollments are going down. Students aren't enrolling, and that's honestly, universities haven't given them a reason to enroll.
Can you give me
at
the
large.
numbers, Eric? Do you have any figures of how many layoffs and furloughs are happening?
I don't have any at large. I know specific examples. The past university where I was just laid off from, in Washington, they just announced another round of 50 people that they were laying off,
Wow.
and the consolation was, but there's not going to be any more through December, which the implication is watch out for January.
Yeah.
Um,
What they're
yeah, I
not
think that
saying is what they're really saying.
yeah, what
Yeah.
they're not saying. I think that the biggest example that I can think of was University of Massachusetts Amherst, which furloughed 850 employees in the beginning of September, and I think
That's
it's just going to
unbelievable.
keep happening. Yeah, and most of the places that are getting laid off, unfortunately, like and here's the problem and the irony of academia, right? That so many of these people that are getting laid off are like the support people, like I mean the people who ran residence halls, the like cleaning staffs, like the dining services, all of these people that they needed to have the university run as an institution,
Yeah.
because there are no students there. There are fewer just fewer need. There's less need available. And it's great that there are so many organizations that help academics leaving higher education, but right now almost all of them focus exclusively on whether or not you have a PhD. of those 850 furloughed employees, not all of them had a PhD. Like there's like some of the most vulnerable populations in higher ed right now are being laid off first, and there's so little support for them. There's a little bit of support for the PhD folk, but there's so little support here. I feel like I'm wandering, Dave.
No, you're
That
not.
might be the whiskey, or it might be the scotch.
No, this is good, but it's
Okay,
shocking.
the yeah
No,
yeah
it's
no
shocking because this
yeah.
COVID thing is a serious thing, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is affecting everybody.
Yeah, and it has been ripping through higher education.
Yeah.
I think that the changes, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, but like some of the things that COVID has done to higher education, I think are going to be permanent. But your original question was, why should anybody hire an academic? That is the question that I will answer right now.
Okay.
That and
It's not
this is
like
what I
I
was
was
talking about.
waiting. It's not like I
No,
was
no, no, no,
waiting.
no, no.
This is a
I'm
good
coming around
convert.
full
Yeah.
circle because we're talking about like, and this is what is establishing, right? Just like the weight of everything that's going on, but then
Yeah.
also, we have this an incredibly talented pool of people that are
Yep.
hitting the market right now. They are incredibly talented, incredibly passionate, and they are a self-selective, altruistic group of people. You do not go into education for money. You just don't. You go into education because you love it.
But
You
what should they
enjoy
do
it.
when they leave, though? So if they're leaving,
Mm-hmm.
what's the
Mm-hmm.
goal for that? Where should they go if they can't get a job?
You know,
They fought so hard for this. They love to teach.
I think that there are two options that you have. You reclaim your own identity as a person,
Mm-hmm.
which, and here's what I mean, that like when I made my exit from academia, everything in academia, your value is tied to your institution. Like, what school did you go to?
Yep. Yep.
Who did you work with when you were there? It's a gatekeeping system that if you don't know the right people, you don't succeed. Um, oh, where was I going, Dave? This happened. I go on tangents in my head.
That's okay. So the people who've left academia, they're so talented.
Yeah.
Where do
Okay.
they go?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
so they have to reclaim their own identity. They have to say like, you know what, like
Right.
I have value not because of where I came from. I have value not because of who I know. I have value because I'm great at what I do. And here's all the things that I've done to show that I am great. And I think that that's one of the things that almost or everybody's going to go through. They're going and they should go through. It's like a career transition, whether you're a veteran going into something else, an academic going into something else. Like these career transitions have a lot of common like similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them are just going to have to say like, okay, like this is the thing that I loved about higher education. Like I loved engaging with students, or I loved standing in front of a class and teaching, or I loved running a residence hall, or I loved being a support staff. Like you identify the thing that it is that you love about education, and then translate that to industry. While we need to admit that higher education is just another industry, we also need to admit that it's a kind of a perfect mirror to every other industry.
Right.
What is valuable in industry is being done in academia, but it's just not valued in academia. Um, because what matters in academia are the publications, the things that you did.
Yeah.
In industry, they don't care about that. In academia, what you did to accomplish that publication doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter that you spent hours in a lab. You're expected to do that. Those are the things that industry will find valuable. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's a matter of redefining who you are without having your academic, like don't limit yourself to your academic identity.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I think of that phrase when you were saying that, and I don't agree with this phrase, but those who teach can't do. I don't agree with that, but it's kind of a flip of that. Those who can't teach do. So it's like you can't teach anymore. You've left academia, go back or go to industry. You know, do you think there's going to be an alternative to academia where there are so many smart people who are like, you know what? I see that this is a money-making machine, and there are people that need to be educated, and let's do private education? Or what's the thought on that? I'm curious.
I think the system at large is gonna. I think private education is going to come in and say, "Hey, this is our moment," and I think that there are a lot that are making that move. Could you ask that question one more time? Because I got it in my head and I got the answer rumbling around.
That's okay. So if they can't teach, they're not in academia, and yet they are teachers in their core, could there be another industry that's not academia that maybe it's a handful of them come together and teach a small class? Like kind of creating another university, but not call it a university.
Yeah, I think that. So yeah, and this is how I kind of started that answer before I went on that horrible tangent, right? Yeah. There are two ways that people are going to be doing this. That first way is going to be redefine yourself, right? And part of the redefining yourself is going to be, I'm going to be a career coach. I'm going to help people through this transition. Or they're going to be like, hey, I'm going to become an upskill. Like I can teach skills, like let me teach a writing class or how to do econ 101 kind of.
Sure,
kind of deal. The natural for teachers, the natural industry is going to be instructional design, which is great because every industry needs instructional designers. But then you have these other people over here that are going, like you said, they're going to see what's happening. They're going to see the opportune moment, and they're going to create something. What they create, going back to the first question we were talking about with rhetoric, right? Rhetoric is neither good nor bad. The act of creating or creation is neither good nor bad. But what we create can have really bad implications, or it can have really, really good implications.
Yeah, right. Okay.
The future of education is going to be ed tech, is going to be technology. What comes along with technology is data collection. It is no longer a moral issue if we should have our data be collected. It is now an inevitable thing that happens. Our data is collected. It is not a good thing and it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that is.
Yep. There's no backing out of that. We're in it already. Yep.
Yeah, there's no point in talking about it.
It's gravity at this point. It's happening.
Exactly. The difference is, what do we do with the data? And that's an important question to ask. If you're entering a school system that's going to say, hey, we're going to collect all this data, you should be asking yourself, how are you using it? How are they going to use it? Can this be weaponized against the teachers? Can this be weaponized against the students? Why are you doing it? Like, to what end? Are you trying to collect information to sell? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to create a market? I mean, these are all questions that we should be asking when our data is collected.
Wow.
Or you can use that for good, just like you can use rhetoric for good. Like there are things that you can do. There are algorithms that you can train and how to engage with these different things that can promote the things that we love to talk about, like diversity and equity and inclusion. Like we can use these tools to promote those things, to hold institutions accountable rather than being subject to the institution's ownership of our data.
Yeah.
And that was my research in doing was the how do we use data, and is it going to be ethical when we do use that data?
I just added the PhD to your name.
Oh yeah, look at that! It's like I
completely
got it all over
forgot
again.
to put it in.
Whoa!
Now we're going to get more people watching.
Yeah, that's why I got it.
Yeah, everyone out there, if you fascinating guy, Eric James Stevens. We got him for a few more minutes, 10 more minutes or so, but connect with him on LinkedIn, right, Eric? I mean, you want people to follow you. For some reason, it's linkedin.com/in. I guess it should just be Eric Steven, but it's Eric J. Stevens, Phens, Eric J. Stevens. Follow him if you're unemployed. If you're in academia, follow him. Follow him. Follow him. Follow, like Dorothy says, to the wonderful Wizard of Oz. What's going to happen with academia? What do you think? What's the future? Do you see it just collapsing?
I love that you just said the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the like, don't look like the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Now, that's what's happening.
Yeah, the
COVID is,
curtain's
like,
open.
pulling back the curtain and saying,
and the $1 million salaries they're shaking. It's like, shut that curtain. They can't shut it now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there are questions that should be asked. I think that you have innovative programs that are already happening. Like, there are two huge things that I don't think people realized how big of a blow this is to academia and to higher education. Thing number one that happened was the Trump administration, in their federal hiring process, now made it is no longer required that you have a 4-year degree. They will hire you based on your skill set and your merit, which I think is a beautiful thing. We won't talk about politics and all that kind of stuff. That is one of the beautiful things that has happened. The other thing, recently, Google came out and said, "Hey, if you don't have a 4-year degree, take this 6-month course from us. It's going to cost you less than a biology textbook, less than $300, and we will accept that over a 4-year degree."
Really?
Oh,
okay. Hold on one sec. You just froze up for 1 second.
Okay.
So the last thing you said is Google will offer you this course under cost of a textbook. We'll take that instead.
Yeah, and so what has effectively happened is that the federal government and one of the largest tech firms in the world have said, we no longer value the 4-year degree. That's a lot. Like, we're seeing declines in enrollment. I think across the board, it's a 5% decline in enrollment in higher education.
That's billions of dollars lost.
Billions of dollars lost. Billions of, or not billions, but like thousands of jobs that are lost. And I don't think the way to fix it is to advocate for the old thing to come back. I think that the way we need to move forward is understand that higher education is going to go through a lean process. It's going to have to become more lean. And those people who are getting cut are going to have to do what they do best in education, and that's be curious. They're going to have to figure out what to do next. And that's a hard thing to admit, but it's something that we need to just admit.
So there's a level of pride that someone in that field has, because it's their sense of worth is tied to the university and whatnot. Like you said earlier, they're coming out of that. Not only do they have to think about the direction they're going in, but they have to deal with the emotion of that. That's difficult. I mean, you've probably experienced it. You might be experiencing some of it now too, but you've talked to people who've had that. How are people coping?
I think in their own way. I think a lot of them are coping silently. I've had a lot of people reach out to me to just say, like, hey, thank you for doing this, for having this voice. I'm always open to connecting with people and having a conversation. So if there is anybody that's out there that's just like, hey, I'm going through this moment, do you have a moment to chat? I would love to. I had an amazing conversation with someone today, how I was able to say, you know what, I know someone who I think is looking for someone just like you,
Yep.
and I'm able to be that in between person for someone else, even though I'm still struggling to find my own work and to find my own job. I find that fulfilling that I can help somebody else do that too. And so I think that there are people that are out there that are coping, they're trying to find out what they should do, and there's this little bit of a scramble. Um, and I think that you should go and find that community um, that's there, that's being developed specifically on and intentionally on LinkedIn as a way to feed algorithms. Again, one of those inevitable things that we exist, feed the algorithms our data. Because without that data, we just don't exist. And we are in an antiquated system.
Right. Listen, I want everyone to follow you. You're a fascinating guy. Follow Eric on LinkedIn. LinkedIn.in/Eric J. Stevens. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Eric.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm so glad we connected. We got to have you on in 2021, which is right around the corner, honestly. I'd like to have the guests come back on another time and touch base. Great riveting video that we just saw before you came on. That was humbling and like, oof, hit you right in the heart. But great job. And great job just pulling that community together of, hate to say X, right? Is it X? Post academia?
Yeah,
X?
I was recovering academic.
Recovering, yeah. I'm a recovering academic who has poor judgment. Listen, Hey, I enjoyed a nice scotch with you. That was great. Can we do another clink? Because actually,
this time we'll get it.
Sammy says I could hear the
I can
clink.
hear the clink. All right. Here
You
we go.
ready?
This one's for Sammy.
Which
Sammy,
hand am I in? Right here? All right,
Here we
ready?
go.
One. Go all the way to
Two.
your right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Nice.
There we go. That was better.
That was the best clink. That's an academic
Definitely.
clink. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate the invite. And
No
again,
problem. We
if
all
you're
connected
listening,
on LinkedIn. Follow
yeah,
this
connect,
man.
please. Thank you.
That was good. That was good. Oh, and stay on, Eric. I just want to, we have what's called an after party. I always forget to tell the guests that. I always forget. Every single night I forget. Stay on for the after party. It's just 5 minutes of just chatting, following up. I sometimes have a closing joke. Tonight I do. But they've been bad. I've been having some, I don't know, stupid jokes. If anyone knows a good joke, tell me. I'm Irish. I should have a ton of them, but, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I get hurt. Like just the other day, I broke my arm in 2 places, and I told the doctor, you know, I broke my arm in 2 places. He goes, stay out of those places. Stay out of those places. See, they're bad. I need your help. Anybody, help me. I'm doing the old standby, the broken arm in 2 places joke. That's what I've gone down to. I've lowered myself. Yes, I did it. At least I didn't do the 3 drinks from The Irishman. That was another classic. See you guys on Friday. Chris Costello, the famous fontographer from Boston, who created the infamous font from Avatar. He's going to joke about it, but he's proud of it too. We're all proud of it. We need it. As long as he didn't design Comic Sans. Good God, I got to get that guy on.